exist. So you won't be able to get credit cards. You won't be able to get mortgages. They won't exist. You won't need to. And it'll be a huge shift mentally to get used to that sort of thing. There'll be a few people, sadly, that will go off the rails because they won't know how to handle money. That's life. But for those who do know it, their duty of care to help educate people.
Right.
And I've made a very, very important point that I think, because we were talking about humanitarian support. And I look at America, I look at England, I look at South Africa, I look at Australia and New Zealand and Canada. These are all countries, middle-class white countries that have been incredibly guilty of not looking after our elderly and putting them into old people's homes. It's time to get them out of those old people's homes and bring them home where they belong and look after them and care for them. It doesn't happen in India, it doesn't happen in Pakistan, it doesn't happen in Vietnam, Cambodia, Philippines, Laos, Thailand. It's not in their DNA, and sadly, it's come into our DNA because we're so wrapped up with money, so wrapped up with time, and we can't make enough money in this that we don't have time to look after the people who looked after us all our lives. And I think that's where humanity starts. It starts at home.
That's true. Now we should talk a little bit about Xi, because it's coming out in the news. Trump is really bashing China. As we know, they closed down the Chinese embassy in Houston, Texas, because they were burning up the clone ballots for our election. So I guess Xi is basically working with Trump, but fighting. They're using his face, though. Fighting the deep state over there. Yeah.
Look, there's lots of red flags. There's lots of things that are distractions. We know from our intel that Xi is very close to Trump, but the government in China is not, and a lot of the diplomats are not, and a lot of the ambassadors are not. They're part of the deep state, and it'll take time to move them out of the way. And Trump will allow certain things to expose how bad they really are. And he's allowing many, many things. He's allowing the rioting in Democrat states. He's allowing these things to happen. Sadly, these are the casualties of war. People get killed, people get hurt. This is sad, but he's having to do it to expose how evil these people really are. Because if he told them that's what they do, nobody would believe him, especially the Democrats. So he's having to wake them up by allowing their mayors and their leaders, whoever they are, to expose exactly what they're up to and how bad they really are. Otherwise, he looks like a dictator. Nobody would believe a word he was saying. So
it's unreal. They have 5 Democratic leaders that are where we're in Minnesota, from the Iron Circle area, that are going and voting for Trump. They're speaking up. They have 5 very high level Jewish rabbis and whatever, this lady, 5 of them also on One American News that I watched that were voting for Trump. They have so many Democrats that are calling into C-SPAN saying they're voting for Trump. So it's going to be a complete landslide, but that's why they know they're going to lose. That's why they have all these backup measures, delay the election results, try to yank him out of office, go after his kid. I do believe now your little story that about his brother might be alive, because I saw some tweets. I'm alive. And he would be more emotional about that if his brother had passed, but no funeral, nothing. So it's interesting.
No, I heard that they tried to poison his brother, and I heard that he survived it, but it was a wake-up call, that they used it to their own ends. That's what I heard. I don't know if it's true.
I heard that the same thing.
Yeah.
But now he's got to, really protect himself and his youngest son. That's,
Yeah, I think you'll find that he's incredibly well protected. I mean, incredibly well, and they will allow the public to believe that certain things are going on to continue the sort of the onslaught of what's going on. I honestly don't believe that the next election will have anything to do with Democrat and Republican. It will be between good and evil.
Right.
I think that the Democratic parties will cease to exist after this election
Hallelujah.
because
That
it's so divisive. It's a complete waste of time.
they have a $50 million fund, that Minnesota Freedom Fund that Kamala Harris was promoting, that's bailing the murderers that murder people out of jail. 100,000 here, 100,000 there, but they only spent 500,000 of that fund. So where's the rest of the 50 million? I mean, it was 20 million, now it's probably 50 million. These people that are donating, like Donald Trump said on Laura Ingraham, are not bright. They think they're doing the right thing, but they're donating to evil means. And Kamala Harris is just a radical beast. She's awful. Yeah.
Yeah, well, look, I think probably now is the time where they're in total control, without a shadow of a doubt. There'll be a number of smoke screens around. There'll be a number of things happen. You have to understand that it's coming up to the election, and as we get up to the election, there'll be a number of things that happen in September and October. The most important thing for you and I to do is to bring people calm and take away their fear and just say, look, things are going to be fine. And if they tell you that you need to go into lockdown, it's nothing to do with COVID-19. It's to do with either arresting people. The sad thing is, as I've mentioned in 2 of my videos today, there will be a spike of deaths in September and October. But it won't be to do with COVID-19. It'll be to do with people that failed to get their operations in March, April, May, and June and July that should have had operations and were denied them because of what was going on. There'll be people that die of a heart attack because they've lost their house, their business, their cars, they've lost their livelihood, and they'll commit suicide. That's very, very sad. There's a lot of old people that'll be wearing a mask, that'll be breaking down their immune system. So that so when germs come along, they won't have the immune system to fight them off, and they'll die. That's very sad. And then you'll have people that die of a heart attack when they find out that the people that they put all their faith and trust into were not what they thought they were. But they'll all go down sadly as COVID-19 victims. And there'll be a spike in deaths in September and October and November, which is very sad.
But there was supposed to be an October 29th surprise. This is October 29th is what John Sperry said. There's an October surprise. Now we know that 302s, we have the one that doctored Carter Page's 302s, Kevin Kleinsmith, that pled guilty. Now we have them going after Pinka, and he was the one that worked with Lisa Page to doctor Flynn's 302s. And Obama does not want that that judge to let Flynn off the hook and keep that story going because they don't want Flynn to talk. So, they want the, on top of him. So, but a lot of things are going on.
There are. It's a fascinating time just to sit back and watch. And it's very, very nice to sit back and not be stressed about it, because a lot of people, I'm getting hundreds of messages every day where people are worried, and I'm trying to say to them, just don't worry. Do yourself a favor. Number one, turn off the mainstream media, because that's the biggest source of fear you'll ever have.
Yeah.
And if there's so many channels nowadays on social media that have so much information for you to stop. You can just put in a subject, whether it's Nesara, whether it's Gesara, whether it's COVID-19, whether it's coronavirus. You can type in any of those, and you can look at many videos. Some are constructive, some are not. Some are straightforward, some are not. Some are lies, some are not. But you can make up your own mind, and it's a very, very good thing to challenge yourself and say, how do I feel about that? Some things I listen to, it's absolute garbage right from the start. And some things you go, well, that makes sense, and that makes sense. It's important.
A lot of people don't have discernment, though. They really argue with me because I told them that last storm was a manipulated, created storm. It had no eye wall for the longest time. Hurricane Laura. First, they had the twin hurricanes that they created, of course. If you watch Mike Morales, don't watch the Weather Channel because it's fear porn. It's fear porn. They're pushing the fear. So they had that, they created the two hurricanes at one time. They were dumping bunker fuel into the ocean from the ships, and then the chemtrails from the air, they were mixing them together. That created the hurricane. Marco died off right away because it got finished quickly because the Sahara dust and the dry air contributes to this. So no real hurricanes can form. So then they pushed this Hurricane Laura and they started shooting lasers into it at night and plasma, whatever they did during the night. Usually a real hurricane gets warm in the day and it's from the sun, but this is a fake one to rotate it. And they were shooting and shooting during the night. You could see the lasers going. And then, you know, I said, definitely it will not be a category 4. It's not going to be a category 3, not a category 2, not a category 1. It was a tropical storm. And then I have all my subscribers saying, you really should watch your ego when you say that, because that was not true. There was a flood. I said, yes, there was a flood. It's a manipulated, created storm by, you know, of course, the Department of Defense. Let's expose them. The Department of Agriculture that wants to make the food prices go up, and NASA and the space NASA, and of course the CIA. They're all working on it. They've been doing it since 1940 or before that. That's what they do. So they don't understand, because the discernment is really low, that if it was a category 4, there would be nothing left. Everything would be demolished. It was a tropical storm, which is less than a category 1. So there was flooding, and that was about it. But it's not about my ego. I'm a truther. I tell the truth, and I'm exposing the groups that are involved, which really are the Weather Channel and everyone else. Because you've seen on the Weather Channel where they said, oh, this storm is really bad. And then you see the reporters going backwards from the rain, and then you see 2 people just walking by, you know, thing. It's all manipulated. The whole news is completely manipulated. And then, of course, now we have, you know, some big news about TikTok, and they're considering selling TikTok to Walmart and Microsoft as a group together against you know, Oracle, which they could have sold it to. See, now I feel, you know, because I read your comments, I'm very anal, that, you know, what the subscribers want to hear is less talking about personal stuff, more info. So I'm like pushing as much info as I can, because I want to please your subscribers that I'm giving, you know, as much info as I can. So yeah, there we go.
It's very, very important. It's an amazing time just to see what's happening with all of these companies. You know, if we wind back to the start, the amount of chairmen and CEOs who stepped down.
Right.
And I received a list 4 months ago of all the different people who stood down from all these big companies. And we're starting to understand why now, because we're now coming through this, and all these big companies. And you look how much money some of these companies have made through the lockdown, and how much some other companies have lost during the lockdown. It's incredible. It's amazing. But we're living in an amazing time. My little man's just walked in here. She's got us.
Hello, how are you? You're very handsome. You look like your dad. Yeah, there you go. Same smile.
He's off to the gym.
Oh, enjoy.
Thank you, bye.
Thumbs up for you.
He's off to do his gymnastics. So he does 3 hours or 4 hours of gymnastics. 5 hours of gymnastics. Wow.
You're in Spain, correct? You're in Spain.
Yeah, we're in Spain. Yeah.
Okay. How is it over there?
It's lovely at the moment. Sort of high 20s, early 30s.
Oh, wow.
As in Celsius. So Fahrenheit, 80s, 90s.
Refugee situation. That's what I meant to.
Sorry?
How's the refugee situation?
Look, we get a few people coming in here, but again, it doesn't hit the mainstream media. It only hits it if they're bringing in drugs with them. But here in Spain, it's very, very different to England, because England will give you money and give you housing and give you this and give you that. In Spain, they give you absolutely nothing, so nobody wants to stop here. So yeah, no, there's I think one thing that Donald Trump is trying to do right now, the countries that all these people have left, he wants to refinance them and get them back on the feet so that people actually want to go back to their own countries. But most of these people are leaving the countries because there's no money, there's no future, and they're at war. So he wants to get rid of all these bad people that are creating all the wars. And because most people love their motherland, most people do. So, you know, a lot of these are coming from North Africa, from Syria, from Libya, from all of these countries that have been affected, Iran, Iraq, been affected by war, Afghanistan, places like that. And, you know, one half of me understands totally why they're trying to leave there, because when they're being bombed senseless and getting attacked, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, if you're trying to raise a family in that environment, it's not good.
Right.
So for what Trump is trying to do to bring peace to the world and to allow these people to return to their own countries and also be able to support their families on a you know, sustainable level.
Right.
That's an amazing thing. That's an amazing thing, and people overlook that. But he's doing an amazing job in exactly that.
Yeah, and you have your English drones now going to the border because they're letting a lot of refugees trying to get through from France, it looks like in the news.
Yeah,
they're flying the drones.
Yeah, they are, because there's been a camp in France for many, many years, and it keeps building up. People walk across Europe, takes days and weeks, and then they get to the border because they see once they get to England, they're going to get looked after. So they'll try anything to get across into England, whether it's on, you know, on a boat or on the back of a lorry. Many, many lorries come in with people hiding in the back. But you have to look at the root of the problem rather than moan about them doing it. Why are they leaving their country? Well, they're leaving their country because there's trouble in their country which has been caused by other countries.
Right.
And that's what you need to get. You need to resolve the problem rather than just, you know, stop people coming. You need to look at why are they leaving their country? What is the reason? Right. Because most of these people would love to go back to their countries if they hadn't been raped and pillaged by other countries and hadn't been, the wars hadn't been caused. And then you need to remove all those that are evil in those countries so you can refinance and restructure and rebuild those countries. You know, the amount of damage that was done in Iraq, as an example, through the war from previous governments, they destroyed cities. I mean, absolutely destroyed it. Those countries need to be refinanced, rebuilt, and look after it. Then most Iraqis would want to go back to their own country. Most of them would. The same with Afghanistan, the same with Syria, the same with Libya, but they've been absolutely battered by war.
Right.
And it will take time. And also, you look at the future of those countries. If Trump gets his way, which I know he will, so much work there to rebuild those countries. So much work. And as a businessman running the world right now, he's just looking and saying, I can create millions and millions and millions of really good jobs in every area, because we're going to need to rebuild these countries that have been destroyed by previous administrations.
Yep, it's a fascinating time that we're living in. There's so much news that I can't stop. It's almost like 7 days a week. And you're doing like 3 shows a day, right?
I did 6 yesterday, and I've only got 4 today.
Oh my
and
God,
4
that's
tomorrow,
brutal.
and 4 the next day. It's gone mad, but it just seems like at the moment, because there's the demand for truth out there, it seems like the right thing to do. And especially when we're up against mainstream media that are 24 hours a day bullshit. I'm having to put 24 hours a day truth out there to combat the bullshit that's out there.
Yeah, that's why I don't watch TV. I barely watch like One American News. That's about it. That's all I watch. So if I watch it,
it's depressing.
It's depressing, and it's lies, mostly lies. So yeah.
Well,
anyway,
it's lovely to see you. I'm seeing you again on Friday, I think, aren't I?
Yes, I'll see you on Friday with Mel, my other decoder. I have Jean and I have Mel. So if I get really tired, they can just take over. I'm smart. I'm like, here, these two are geniuses. They do deep dives and they're excellent. So yeah,
Brilliant.
Mel's coming on. She's going to talk about Rachel Chandler, Nexium, the child trafficking, the whole 9 yards. She's an expert because she worked for Chelsea Handler. She knew the guy that owned the Chateau Marmont, where that black child was on amphetamines, and he died in the hands of the Adam Schiff that was dressed in drag, and then that caused the murder of Anthony Bourdain. She knows all about that. His name was something, it starts with a B. Anyway, Chelsea Handler was dating him. And then she also worked for Donald Trump. So she can talk about all of that. And she was an actress. So we did how many? About 13 Q digs. We've done 20 gene decodes, and the last gene decode was great because he exposed what kofefe meant, and it has like multiple meanings. And it talks about how they spin it with the huehua, where it spins the water in your system, and it makes you like drown. And he's amazing. So yeah, he was really happy to do your show. He's like, I want to go back. I'm like, well, I have to ask Charles about that.
Yeah, no, brilliant. These sort of this is what people need to see. So it gives a different perspective, which is absolutely brilliant. But thanks once again. I shall look forward.
Yeah, thank you for your time. I appreciate you. I'm sorry I was a little late because I got confused about the 9 and 10 o'clock. So yeah.
No worries at all. Absolute pleasure. Cheers,
guys.
Pleasure.
Cheers. Hello.
Hi, it's Justin, and I hope you're enjoying my dad's videos. Make sure to share this video